All right, everybody, rivalry week has passed, which means the regular season is over in college football, which I'm trying not to get upset about. I'm excited about the college football playoff, but what an incredible regular season, and it ended on a high note, on a crescendo yesterday with rivalry week. As we get ready, we got the championship game set. As far as the conferences go, we're going to get into those matchups. But we got to dive into everything. I want to bring in my co-host, David Cohn, former Michigan quarterback. What a night. Shocked you were able to get up and make it this morning, to be honest with you. I don't know if I could, if my team would have pulled one off like that. Then my brother, Blaine Crane, former Western State Colorado wide receiver, joining us as well. And before we get into all of the craziness, right, because it is craziness, we got the playoff ranking, selection Sunday, whatever you want to call it. When you look at the matchups that we have set. All right, if you want to ask a question when we get into the games, remember, if you donate and it's on topic, that will get read at the time. If not, it will get read at the end. Please hit that subscribe button. Nobody can do this like we can here, and because of you guys, we're able to keep doing it. David Cohn, first off, I just want to say, I want to let you have the floor. All right, say your piece on just what it meant yesterday for Michigan to beat Ohio State, what it means for Ohio State, what it means for Michigan. We're going to get in this game and then let people know, obviously, who's playing in the Big Ten Championship.
Well, I love college football, man. I love college football coast to coast. I'm proud to have been able to play college football. And thank you to all the young men who are going out there putting their bodies on the line. Thank you to all the coaches and the staff members who, sacrificed being away from their families so that I could be with mine this weekend and experience a weekend like this. And it wasn't just yesterday. I mean, Georgia Tech Friday night. We were sitting here watching Memphis Tulane on Thanksgiving go down to the wire. So what an incredible weekend as far as the Michigan game yesterday. I mean, like we talked about all week, you're the reigning national champs. That's in your past. You just signed the number one player in the country last week. That's your future. What's your present? How much pride do you have to go into your rivals? How much pride do you have to go into the horseshoe, into your rival's home and put up a fight? And the defensive performance that Wink Martindale and this team put forward, I can't believe it. It's going to go down in the history of this rivalry. Obviously, we can sit here and talk about what little the offense was able to do, but they did their part. They did just enough. And man, I'm just so proud of those guys. I know we're going to talk about, what happened after the game, and we can get to that. But as far as the on the field performance, to go in there and to deliver like that, it just I'm actually shocked, because for the first time in 4 years, I walked down these stairs just fully ready to take what was coming to us. Jim Harbaugh left. You got these 15 guys drafted. They're not there anymore. And to fight with pride like that was really something to see.
Yeah, and, getting into the game, I want to talk about what this means, and I think there's a serious mental block for Ohio State when it comes to Michigan. I'll get to that in a second, but just as far as the game went, we earlier in the week talked about what had to happen for Michigan to win this game. How would this game have to track from a tempo standpoint, from an Ohio State having to make mistakes standpoint? David, everything we said that, and especially you, said that had to happen for Michigan to win this game, because it was a narrow path. They could only win a game like this. Mm-hmm. If this was a high-scoring game, they were not going to win it. If it was a game where they had to come back from down double digits, even if it wasn't a high-scoring game, they weren't going to win it. If it was a game where they tried to mix it up and threw it around and went up tempo a lot, they probably weren't going to win it. But it was a slow, grimy. I mean, Mullings had 116 on 32 carries. Mm-hmm. Orji had 32 on 3 carries. Davis Warren was 9 of 16 for 62 yards, 2 picks, no touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. One of those big ones late. But David, it could have only tracked this way, sluggish, and Ohio State turning the ball over. Yep. Not just in general, but in big moments. Right? A missed field goal is a turnover. The other team gets the ball. So in my eyes, we used to look at missed field goals or not getting on fourth down as turnovers. Will Howard, those 2 interceptions, one key one in the red zone as well, another one that gave the ball. You turned it over in the 2 worst places you possibly could. And you're the red zone going in to score, and then backed up to give Michigan a short field. So it always amazes me when games have to follow a certain narrow, it's the goat path off 300. Mm-hmm. The guy showed him how to, this is the only way. They couldn't make it through the hot gates, David. There was no way if Michigan walked through the hot gates, they were going to win it. But to me, if you're Ohio State, where does this loss rank as far as like some of the worst all time. Not the ones where you're having a bad season and you lose to a team that you typically don't lose to. But this one cuts deep. You had every advantage. To me, this is not a physical thing. I think Ohio State's roster physically, right, the amount of athletes they had more than Michigan, especially when the two guys are out that Michigan had out, two of their best players. But it is now a mental illness. There is a mental illness for Ohio State against Michigan. It's like the kid that, if you've ever seen the movie, Blaine, The Big Green, like that short fat kid that's on Sandlot that plays goalie for him. And like at the beginning, he's so scared because every time he looks at the other team dribbling the ball towards him, they turn into like monsters. They're
well, it's
like
not
werewolves or
well, it's not an Ohio State thing. It's a Ryan Day thing. I mean, what did Urban Meyer do against Michigan?
I'm talking about right now with Ohio State.
If there's a different head coach, I believe Ohio State wins that football game. I think Ryan Day has a weird way or a weird thing with not being able to beat Michigan. I really do. Some guys just can't get it done in the biggest moments of the year. And when it comes to Michigan, all right, it's the Great White Buffalo for Ryan Day. There's something about it. You can't get over it. You paid $20 million rosters. I guess you forgot to get a kicker. There's no reason. Like, we can all sit here and say that Ohio State has a better football team. And look, I'll give all the flowers to Michigan. Y'all won the game, but I think it says a lot about Ohio State. And hell, they had more fight after the game than during the game. And you lost that with a better team with Michigan's two best players out.
Yeah.
With their two best players out.
Well, David, like the way that, to me, it's on Ryan Day, and it is on Ryan Day. It's and maybe what I mean by an Ohio State thing, it's an Ohio State thing while Ryan Day is there. Because just look at the way everybody fell apart. I've been saying I don't think Will Howard is this elite quarterback. He really didn't have to be.
Mm-hmm.
We said he just couldn't drive the ship into the iceberg. Well, he hadn't officially driven it into the iceberg, but it's pretty close, and some people consider losing to Michigan, and I get it, as hitting the iceberg. You're still going to make the college football playoff. Now I think you have to win a national championship or at least get there. That's a conversation we've had. But look at everybody that fell apart around them. The play calling was awful. The kicker, who had been so reliable all year, couldn't hit kicks under 40 yards. When the kicker and you want to talk about a deadly combo of playing bad? When the kicker and the quarterback play bad, that is like a death sentence. That is winning fentanyl. But maybe it is a confidence thing in your coach. Maybe they can sense, maybe the players can sense there's something about Ryan Day that is an alpha like that when it comes to Michigan. I've got no other explanation. I've got no other explanation than that. That's the way, to me, it's on Ryan Day, whether it's in preparation, whether it's in what he's saying. Maybe they feel like it's that fake toughness, right? That, we're tough. Tell Lou Holtz I'm going to kick his old ass, like nobody, I don't know if anybody's believing that.
I will say this, Dave, before you go. I thought Chip Kelly called one of the worst games I've seen.
Well, yeah, of course. Why aren't you going at tempo nonstop? Congrats to Michigan on stopping the Buckeyes from being able to run the ball at all. That certainly helped. But why aren't you just going 5 wide up tempo as much as you can for at least the first 3 drives? Even if you go 3 and out on the first 3 drives, just wear out what players Michigan does have on defense, right? Like you said, you're already out Will Johnson. You're out Colston Loveland on the offensive side of the football. They're clearly going to show you they're not going to throw the football to win. With those 10 points that you were talking about, Jake, I think the stat line was 6 plays for 5 yards and 10 points. And you just can't do that. But on the Ryan Day point, like, this is the worst game of his professional career. Like, he's waking up today, this is the worst day after a game that he has ever had. You can say what you will about the other ones, but at least Jim Harbaugh was on the other side of that. At least J.J. McCarthy was on the other side of that. At least you were, you're bringing back seniors now. Like, this is even worse than going up against an interim coach last year. Right? I mean, you got a walk-on quarterback over there who just beat cancer a few years ago. The 2 best players on either side of the football are out. Michigan's a 6-5 team. This is the worst loss that you can possibly endure. Now, a couple things here before people just go throw Ryan Day aside and say that he should be fired. Here's a couple things to remember. One, obviously, yes, they're going to make the college football playoff this year. What kind of run can they go on? I think that's going to be able to maybe salvage, a little bit of this for Buckeyes fans, especially if you're able to move forward and win the national championship, as tough as it still will be. But then also, let's just remember, you guys, we were talking about Jim Harbaugh. I watched him lose 6 of these in a row, right? Like, he could not figure out the Urban Meyer problem.
But
and there's a lot of Michigan
David,
fans.
did he ever have this much of an advantage? I always remember looking at Ohio State and be like, they're better than Michigan.
I know. And it is bad. It's bad. And he never had this level of an advantage. But still, the fact remains that in this rivalry, there are swings, right? And this was the year when the swing was supposed to start back towards the Buckeyes. And I think that if you're Ryan Day, maybe it's time to just go look in the mirror and stop with the excuses. You can't blame the weather this time around. You can't blame Michigan for having your signals. You can't blame Kyle McCord. You see what that kid did yesterday out here beating Miami, leading the nation in passing. So enough with the excuses. Maybe just look in the mirror and say, you know what? It's time to put this on me.
Yeah, without a doubt. All right, I want to talk about the thing that happened after. There were fights all over college football yesterday. It was a weird day. It was like there was like a full moon or something. Everybody was all gassed up. I know it's rivalry week, but we see a couple fights. We don't see the magnitude of fights that we saw yesterday, and really all about the same thing. I want to get to the chat first.
All right, Chad, hit that like, hit that subscribe button. If you donate, it's on topic. It will get read. We're going to start the day off with a $5 donation from Dylan Whitmore, who says, with Ohio State losing to Michigan, does that mean if Penn State loses the Big Ten championship, they can still get the 5th seed?
I mean, I think that's very possible. If you're Penn State, we talked about this with the SEC. How is the committee going to view, maybe a 10-2 Georgia that loses the game to Texas and now they're 10-3? We know they're not going to get one of those top 4 seeds if you're playing, if you lose that ACC championship game. But I don't see a world in which you are punished incredibly, even after the loss to Michigan, by Ohio State. If you're punished incredibly by losing to Oregon, who's undefeated, the number 1 team in the country, that Ohio State lost to. Well, what I'm interested to see is, what is the correlation? Let's say Penn State loses the Big Ten championship game to Oregon by, 10 points, right? 13 points, kind of looks like same old Penn State. Who gets seeded higher in the college football playoff between Penn State and Ohio State? Do they say, listen, Ohio State, they won the head-to-head, they were at your place, we're going to give them the higher seed? I still think it should be Ohio State if Penn State were to lose that Oregon game. And if Oregon were to lose to Penn State and not get one of those top 4 spots, I think they should be ahead of Ohio State for the same reason. So as far as, I think you're asking me just about the seeding to be the 5 to play that 12 game, which to me, if you're not going to have a bye, it's pretty obvious to see that being the 5th seed behooves you the most as far as the path to go and play the path of least resistance, I guess, because the 8-9 plays the 1, kind of like they do in college basketball. So I'm interested to see. I don't think so. I think if any team was going to get that 5th seed in the Big Ten, the loser of the Big Ten championship game we're talking about, I think it would be Ohio State because they beat Penn State straight up. If not, Oregon's going to get it because Oregon beat Ohio State straight up.
I think Notre Dame's looking good for that spot right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Let's go to Brian Block. What's up, Brian? He says, two Ohio teams playing a conference championship, boys, and neither of them are Ohio State. Paid $20 million for nothing.
Well, I mean, look, I don't think it is an athlete. There's no reason that Ohio State, with the talent that they had compared to Michigan mixed with the injuries, shouldn't have just been able to go out there and take advantage of something. And the sad part was they were, but for some reason, Chip Kelly didn't stick with it. Now, if you look at the catastrophic mistakes, right, the buck always stops with the head coach. You're either coaching it or you're allowing it to happen. We know that. We always say that here. But I was this is why I think it's a mental thing. It's a mental thing with the players looking at Ryan Day. How does your kicker that has been that consistent fall apart that badly? I understand you missing one, but falling apart that badly twice in big moments. Will Howard turning the ball over, not that he hadn't turned the ball over this season, but when he turned it over and where he turned it over. There's just something that if you're an Ohio State fan, what else can you do with Ryan Day there? What, are you going to go buy better players than this? I mean, what are the odds of that? It seems to be something mental, and that's worse. That's worse. I would rather have a sprained ankle than be losing my mind. I would rather have, break my femur, right, than get Alzheimer's. Let's just be honest, right? I would rather have that type than a mental type, or be schizophrenic, or be bipolar. There is something in the mental phase of Ohio State with Ryan Day there as the head coach that it seems like they can't get over. But Jim Harbaugh got over it, different circumstance a little bit. Man, I just that one still shocked me. I don't get shocked a lot That one shocked me yesterday.
I think the biggest thing these last 3 years is Michigan knows what their identity is. Remember through the mid-teens there, it was like, what is Michigan's identity as they're switching coaches here and they're trying to recover from Rich Rodriguez being the head coach, and Brady Hoke came in and tried to instill that. Then Jim Harbaugh comes in, brings a different identity. These last 3 years, Michigan has known what their identity is, even as Sharon Moore has taken over. And I think that's left the Buckeyes wondering a little bit, wait, what's our identity? Because it's a little different in September, when we're playing MAC schools, let's say, and putting up 70 points, to then having to switch gears a little bit when we're playing Michigan in November and maybe there's a little bit of snow on the ground. Michigan doesn't have to switch identities for a game like that.
Yeah. Let's go to John Callahan. Johnny, what's up? He says, why would a 2-loss Ohio State get the 5th seed over a Notre Dame team?
I don't think they will.
Oh, I don't think they will. I mean, if we're talking between Notre Dame right now with the way they finished the season, I mean, Notre Dame's probably going to get the highest seed they possibly can get, and that is the 5th seed, because they obviously can't qualify for the top 4 because of the conference. There's no way that I think right now Ohio State would get that seed over them. And Notre Dame doesn't have another game to play. It's like Notre Dame, the hay's in the barn. You're in the college football playoff. I mean, we're going to talk about the teams that are already in the college football playoff, at least from what we think here soon. I do want to move on. There's a lot of other games we need to cover. Just quickly on the fight at the end of the game where they had to end up pepper spraying, I guess, some of Michigan's guys or some of the guys. Here's where I'm at. It's one thing. I've got no problem. You won the game. You should be able to talk your stuff, right? You should be able to celebrate on the field. You should be able to run the flag around the field. Show everybody, hey, it's the Michigan flag. We won. Play the songs, do the hymns, read the scriptures. But when you're going to plant, and we saw like Baker Mayfield kind of started this. Do you remember when Baker Mayfield would play the Oklahoma flag, like in big games? I'm fine with you taking the flag out there, but I can understand it's not right. I'm not saying it's not right. This is a bad situation on both sides, I think. But planting the flag in the middle of the field just says, you guys know, y'all played too. You know how competitive it is. I don't think you react the way that Ohio State reacted, but I can understand why you'd be pissed. Let me just put it there. And that one, the only place where that happened.
Look, that fight at the end, that's not a great look, and certainly I wish that it hadn't happened, but I have absolutely no problem with Michigan taking their flag to the middle of the horseshoe after all they heard was how badly they're going to get beat, after Ryan Day said he's going to hang 100 points on them, after the spread is 3 touchdowns plus, you go into their house and beat them. And what I heard, I don't have proof of this, but I heard that Texas and Oregon took their flags to the center of Michigan stadiums this year when they beat them. I got out of there at the Texas game before the very end. So I can't say, but so what? So be it. That's what you do. You could take your flag to the center of someone else's, and then I have no problem with the Buckeyes players saying, "Hey, no, we don't want to stand for that." I wish they had shown that much fight during the game. It might have been even a better contest. But you know what? I have no problem really all the way around. It's unfortunate. Wish that it hadn't happened, but I'm not going to sit here and tell them that they can't defend their turf at the same time.
Yeah, I respect that.
I mean, there's going to be a look. I'm all for fighting. Y'all know me. I'm just saying, if you do that, there's going to be a fight every time y'all play. Every time y'all play.
There already is.
And if like you run to the middle of a field and you spear down a flag into a logo, they're going to fight. They're going to fight. So if we're fine with that,
well, it's turf, so there's only so much.
I'm cool with it. I mean, we'll both go to Waffle House together.
Yeah, there's just a lot of people out here that I've seen on social media that want to claim that this is the greatest rivalry in sports, right? They want to take pride in that, but then they want to say, no, this is the biggest embarrassment that I've ever seen happen, or whatever Gus Johnson is talking about on TV. Like, Gus Johnson needs to stop calling this game. Like, you need to go somewhere else, Gus Johnson, because quite frankly, we're tired of it. But there's a lot of people who want to talk about this being the greatest rivalry in sports. Well, you know what? Sometimes this is what's happening. And I didn't see anybody go to the hospital. I didn't see anybody like engage in anything that really, you can't come back from. That's the type of behavior you really don't want to see.
Gus Johnson loves him from Ohio.
I don't know.
Loves him.
Loves it. You need to stop calling the football games, to be honest.
Yeah. All right. Quickly, I want to get through the rest of the Big Ten. We're going to get to the SEC. Minnesota beats Wisconsin 24-7. Iowa, and an absolute shootout for these two teams, beats Nebraska 13-10. Nebraska finishes 6-6. Oregon handled Washington. Obviously, Penn State destroyed Maryland. Notre Dame with a big win over USC. Got 2 pick-sixes late. Looked pretty good, and they continue to play well. Say what you want about the schedule. You control what you can control. This Notre Dame team looks to be playing about as well as anybody in the country, or at least in a good rhythm. Again, the schedule hasn't been crazy, but they're playing pretty well right now. Indiana just did things to Purdue that are illegal in half the United States and probably about to be 3/4, 66-0. Illinois, Northwestern, Illinois beats them by 10. Rutgers destroyed Michigan State, destroyed them, 41-14. That game was never close. Then UCLA defends the home turf, plays Fresno State, beats them by a touchdown. Guys, anything else in the Big Ten or with Notre Dame before we move on and talk about the bludgeonings that happened in the SEC yesterday?
So now it'll be Oregon and Penn State in the Big Ten Championship Saturday.
Who do you like early, Dave?
I like Oregon.
Yeah. Do we have a spread on that yet, Blaine?
I did see a stat that all conference championship games right now are a touchdown spread.
They're a touchdown spread, all like
exactly, or within a touchdown.
Within a touchdown. Spread.
Within a touchdown.
Hold on, I got it right here. Ooh, Oregon -3.5, boys.
3.5.
Wow.
Oregon -3.5.
2.5, son. Is Penn State? Is James? So would a win over Oregon, like, would that count for Penn State fans? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like in that.
Yeah.
I know it's a.
Big game.
That would to them, that would be like, all right, it's not Michigan or Ohio State. Penn State fans in here, is that obviously you want to win the game. That's not what I'm asking. It'd be a huge win. But like, are you going to add that into, I can take a deep breath about James Franklin now? Like, would that suffice just because it's such a kind of a new thing? That's the question I want to know. But that's going to be a hell of a game, man. Hell of a game. All right, let's bounce over to the SEC. And I want to start with Texas and Texas A&M. You know, all last week we talked about this is the most important game in Texas A&M history. The most important. All the stuff that's on the line. Everything. First chance to be able to play in an SEC championship game in Atlanta since you joined the conference against your hated rival, Texas. You're finally playing. They finally walked back in the neighborhood again. And guess what? They're ready to fight, right? You thought they moved across the country, then they moved back, and they're ready to fight. You got a chance to make the college football playoff if you win out. Win this one, win the SEC championship game, you get a top 4 seed, and you get it at home. At home. Mike Elko is going to do fantastic things at A&M. If I was an A&M fan, I'd be super duper pissed off because, like, it was set up as Texas thinks they're better than you. Texas has got all daddy's money. Texas, you know, they're just, you know, basically walking around here as, you know, dressed up preppy, laughing at you as you go out to work the farm. And Texas out-physicaled you. They out-blue-collared you. They out-grinded you. There was nothing fluke about this. This was about as much of it. If you're going to win there's going to be ass beatings by 10 points. This is one of them. Wisner, $186 on 33 carries. Don't sound rich and spoiled to me. Quinn Ewers, I thought played really, really well. I thought he managed the game really, really well. I thought he made really good decisions with the ball. They brought in Arch for that one rush. I thought he ran the ball better. Then I guess they said he's got that new amazing ankle sleeve that like Elon Musk found on Mars or something that apparently helps. State of the art or whatever. But Texas beat Texas A&M the country way. They beat him the country way. Not the sexy way. Not the flashy way. Marcel Reed's your leading rusher, 60 yards. Amari Daniels, 13 carries, 21 yards. Ruben Owens, 3 carries, 10 yards. Marcel Reed had a good completion percentage, 16-23, but nothing big. They kept the explosive plays to a minimum. Your leading receiver had 40 yards. Matthew Golden had 73 on 3 catches. Gunnar Helm, probably most underrated player in the country at his position, had 6 catches for 56 yards. He's a security blanket. I mean, even Wisner, who ran, you know, circles around A&M.
He's still running.
Had over 20 yards. David, they beat him the country way. They beat him the way that I thought that was A&M's identity. That to me, if you're Texas, is what should give you the most confidence and should be what you feel the best about. You just
no doubt
beat them up, man.
No doubt. And I think this should put to rest, any doubters saying that Texas hasn't played anyone significant, because when you go into College Station and rush for 243 against this defense, it's quite impressive. Obviously, the pick six, Quinn Ewers wishes that he had that one back. And you can't do things like that in the college football playoff if they're going to win the national championship. But the mentality that you're talking about, I know that, there are ideological differences between Austin and College Station and people who go to the University of Texas and Texas A&M, but that to me is not reflected in the way that Steve Sarkisian leads this program, right? Remember when he first got to Austin, he said there's a lot of things that need to be different here from a culture standpoint, and he was getting players out of there left and right. And now I think he's built up a type of program that can go win a football game like this. And Marcel Reed's a heck of a player. I think he's going to have a really good career. I just thought the expectations for this past month of the season were a little bit high for a freshman quarterback. You know, I mean, we saw what happened when they went on the road to South Carolina, went on the road to Auburn, and yeah, you got this one at home, but that's a defense that ranks number one in a lot of categories for a reason, and it's not just because they have this, you know, extremely weak strength of schedule. They're really good players on that side of the football. So I'm glad that we were in for a great game. You know, 17-7, but 7 of those points are coming from the Texas A&M defense on Quinn Ewers. So I don't know. It was a great game, and now moving forward, now you get your revenge shot, right? You know, like what happens now when you go face Kirby Smart a second time, because you can't have a repeat of the first go around, in my opinion.
Blaine, you know, your overall thoughts. Does Texas have the best defense in the country? We've been talking about Tennessee. I mean, I think look, say what you want about A&M's offense, but I'm watching these Texas guys run around, and it's just incredibly
and it gets lost
and incredibly violent.
It gets lost when you talk about Texas, and I was harping on this all week. Like, it gets lost when you talk about Texas and Sark and all the creative things they do on offense, all the eye candy, the big plays, the big players. Like, Texas's defense is one of the best in the nation. And my key for this game was linebacker play from Texas. Guess who were the 3 leading tacklers on their defense against A&M? It was linebackers. They're physical up front, and I will say this about both schools: they both got daddy's money. They're not worried about money on any part. But
you
Texas,
know what I'm saying? Though, perception.
Yeah, for sure. Texas is a physical football team. Texas wants to get downhill and stop the run, and Marcel Reed is not good enough yet as a passer to go win you this football game. So people, when they talk about Texas, the offense is great, but I like the defense even more than the offense because they have absolute killers on each level of the football.
Yeah. All right, let's get to the chat.
All right, let's go to Satch Man. What's up, dude? He says, right now, do you think Arch Manning, I know Quinn played well, but do you think Arch Manning will be seen more going forward?
They're gonna have packages built in for him. You saw it. I mean, they're using him as a guy that can run the ball to add a different element that maybe doesn't have as the amount of tendencies out of certain formations and looks in the run game. That's what Sark's trying to do. Yeah, Arch can obviously throw the ball. He trusts him to throw the ball, but it's his changeup, right? We see this in baseball all the time. You got your fastball, then you got your off speed, whether it's a changeup, curveball, slider, whatever. This is his changeup. There's going to be more wrinkles, and the more success they have running the ball with Arch, the more I think it's going to open up to be creative and put those passes in there. Because again, think about what did we see in the Auburn A&M game? What did we see in the Georgia Tech game? Imagine that you find yourself in one of these games that goes 5, 6, 7, possibly even 8 overtimes. That's 4 2-point conversions. You need to have a package in there that allows you to mix it up a little bit. I think not only for that scenario, but for short yardage as well. Maybe there's a game where Texas isn't able to just line up with Quinn in there and run their gap stuff, run their zone stuff, and get 3rd and 2s consistently. They want to put Arch in there to have that running element accompanied by that throwing element. Who did we see do that a lot when he was a freshman? And I'm not making this comparison.
Tim Tebow.
I'm not saying they're the same players. Tim Tebow.
Yep.
And
Chris
they're not
Lee.
the same player. I'm not saying Arch will be Tim Tebow, but it's a smart move by Sark. You're adding another chapter to an already really long book that I have to read and understand.
No, I was just about to make the exact same comparison, and not necessarily for the style of play, but yeah, how many times did we see Chris Leak in those Urban Meyer Florida offenses lead the offense down, and then on short yardage, 4th and 1, 3rd and 2 goal line situations, Tim Tebow come in and use a different skill set? That's the type of 2-platoon package system that really works and can add value. I was a little surprised to see Steve Sarkisian go to it yesterday, but when it worked, it's like, oh my goodness. And congratulations to Arch Manning for making him to validate that decision and say, yeah, if you put the football in my hands, I'm going to go score on this defense. And he did.
Arch's got a little bit of dog, and you already think he's already a better thrower than Tim Tebow right now. All right, let's go to Starch Manning. What's up, man? He says, Texas ain't played nobody. Yeah, right. We're too deep for A&M this year. O-line needs to keep this rolling into Atlanta. How do you see us matching up against Georgia?
Well, look, I know you lost the game at home. I actually think that's an advantage for you now. It's really tough to beat a good team twice. You are going to Atlanta, which I will tell you, there will be half the stadium filled with Texas fans and half with Georgia fans, but it's going to feel like a home game for Georgia. It always does. It's never stopped Bama. I think it's kind of a little overblown whenever Georgia goes and they bring it up, but it's going to be an amazing scene. As far as the offensive line, that's another fantastic point. You get here and you level up and you become elite because you're elite in the trenches. How did Saban do it at Bama? In the trenches. How did Kirby do it at Georgia? In the trenches. How is Sark doing it at Texas? In the trenches. How has Michigan done it for the past 4 years now? In the trenches. I don't care what level of football it is, right? If you're good up front, you got a chance to beat anybody that you play. And I think right now, the cohesiveness of that Texas offensive line, and it's not just in the run game, it's in pass pro too. But when you're able to run the ball, it doesn't just protect the quarterback and help him out as far as the passing game, it helps the offensive line out. Because now that defensive line can't guess of what's going on. Oh, we know we're in this down and distance. They have to do this. Or the threat of running or the threat of the quarterback running slows them down a little bit. The way that Sark's able to do the silent count and the hard count, I think, slows down some of these defensive linemen a little bit. So it's going to be an amazing matchup. You got two brilliant minds. Sark on the offensive side, obviously with his crew. Then you got Kirby with Schumann on his side and his crew defensively. I can't wait to see the adjustments that were made off the first game. I just want to know, how's Quinn Ewers going to play? Because that's the guy that's got to do it against Georgia. Because I know that Georgia Tech lined up and ran the ball at him, and all. I don't think that's going to happen.
I think you're going to see Arch a little bit more in this game after what Georgia Tech did to Georgia in the QB run game. I would not be surprised if we saw Arch a lot more in this football game.
Texas is favored right now, 2.5.
2.5, yeah, I saw that.
That doesn't shock me. It wouldn't shock me either way. It wouldn't shock me if Georgia was favored as well. All right, remember, if you donate, it's on topic. It will get read. Let's make sure we get some of them donos read before we get to the end here. I do want to shift to Auburn and Alabama, guys. We're going to get to South Carolina and Clemson, obviously. Going into this game, Auburn doesn't play well in Tuscaloosa. I mean, the last time I can remember us winning was obviously the comeback, and that's because we had Cam Newton. Before that, it was a while. I think it was the Trey Smith year when he was a senior, where he had to play, and we went on the road and won. I put out a video yesterday, and I've backed Hugh Freeze. The win over A&M was really big coming in the week before. And, if Alabama just would have lined up and just been better than Auburn, right, I could accept that. I could accept a score like that. But when you cause 4 turnovers and you go to the red zone 3 times and you get no points and you're down by 14, you screwed it up. The play calling once again this year, and I don't know what, and I'm going to get to what I think it is. The play calling this year has been really bad because I think Hugh Freeze is calling plays like the quarterback's elite. He's calling plays like he has Cam Ward, but he doesn't have Cam Ward, and he never made that adjustment. He put so much faith in Peyton Thorne, and listen, it's not all on Peyton Thorne, right? It's that Peyton Thorne did some good things at Auburn, didn't win a lot. Right. But there was other problems, but you can't put Peyton Thorne in that position. How does Jarquez Hunter not get more carries? Once again, he had 13. Why does Cam Coleman not get any deep looks after what he did against A&M? Once again. We saw this after the win at Kentucky when they fed Jarquez like a fat kid at a Golden Corral. Then the next game against Vanderbilt, he runs for 15 yards on the first play. Then they just forget about him. They called plays for Peyton Thorne like he was something that he's not. That's not Peyton Thorne's fault, right? Heck, it's great to play quarterback at Auburn. He shouldn't have been the quarterback at Auburn. I don't care how many messages his dad sends me on Twitter. So you can't call plays. You can't call plays like a player's elite. That's what Hugh Freeze did, and it cost him once again. I'm just so glad I never have to watch this offense go out there. You got to go hit a home run in the portal at quarterback. You got to go. You can't trust a freshman to come in here and do this because at some point the on the field stuff, it's got to get better, Hugh. You can't keep doing this. You can't keep losing to Bama and Georgia, including blowing it, and you can't keep putting a product out there that looks the way this looks offensively. And you're supposed to be an offensive guy. If I go to Nana's Pudding Palace and the pudding sucks, I'm going to be upset. I don't care how good the broccoli and cheese is. I'm going there for Nana's pudding. And you told me we were going to get Nana's pudding on offense. And it's terrible. It's the worst pudding I've ever had because you got somebody bad that's back there making it. You can't have somebody back there making bad pudding. And that's what happened at all. This is the best way I can explain it. You're calling plays like the guy's elite. I just want to go back to Nana's Pudding Palace.
Blaine, what'd you think?
Oh, I don't know why I am even surprised. I'm not.
I'm not surprised.
I'm not. What that game made me think about is how the hell did we beat A&M?
Yeah.
How the Jordan Hare is that big of a difference. But, like, I've been saying this the entire year before a game got played. You kept Peyton Thorne. I will never understand it. The thing about the SEC guys, and I think Auburn's defense, you caused 4 turnovers. I thought you played well enough to win the game.
Yeah, I don't know.
I've never seen a team with 4 turnovers who are down 14 at the same time. Yeah. The thing about what you have to have in the SEC at quarterback, man, it has to be a difference maker, right? You have to have that guy. Look at the best teams in the SEC. I think Quinn Ewers is a difference maker.
I watched
Clemson versus South Carolina. Lenore Sellers, difference maker. We'll go watch the Georgia game. Carson Beck hasn't been great this year, but you see passes from Carson Beck, and you're like, yeah, I get it. Okay, yeah, that kid's ceiling really high. Even with DJ Lagway down at Florida, the way he can create. Peyton Thorne couldn't create a sandwich at Jimmy John's. Like, he doesn't know what he's looking at. I've never seen a guy who's like a 6-year senior throw it away on 4th and goal. He does things that don't make sense, and at the end of the day, he's not a difference maker. He's an extremely inconsistent quarterback from week in to week out, and that's why you see what Auburn's record is. And at the end of the day, that's on Hugh Freeze. And if you miss on a quarterback in the portal this year, you will be fired. There's no if and buts about it. And it's not me making the move, buddy. I promise you. And it'd be a lot different if you weren't blowing football, right? The way you're losing football games matter. So, buddy, like, I want to see the best, but it can't be like, I feel bad for Peyton Thorne. Oh, this, and that. There's an expectation of winning at Auburn. And what Peyton Thorne did was not good enough. And at the end of the day, you can blame the head coach. That's the guy you should blame, but blame goes all around when it comes to football, and you need a difference maker at quarterback.
Yeah, look, I know how tough it is to play the position, and I know how frustrating it is when you put in so much work and you're not playing up to your own expectations. And certainly I'm not going to lay all the blame for Auburn at the feet of Peyton Thorne. But to your point about the play calling, I'm watching the very first play of the game. We're coming out and empty, running drop back. Empty drop. I was like, "What? Talk about pitching backwards. Let's see. Maybe it'll work." Empty drop back, and it's even more perplexing because now you're 12 weeks in and you've seen a template. I would have just been watching every play of the Vanderbilt game. There's not a lot of programs in the country that can sort of emulate what Vanderbilt was able to do when they beat Alabama. Hugh Freeze's offense is one of those few systems that can say, you know what, we can take some things that Vanderbilt did. Yeah, Diego Pavia is on a different level, and you sort of have to have a gamer at quarterback to make a lot of that stuff work, but there's a lot of system related stuff here that we could take from what Vanderbilt was able to do. And you got the 4 turnovers. You won the turnover margin by 2, right? Like you really had more turnovers than you even needed to make Alabama uncomfortable. So I was surprised with all of that added in that it wasn't closer, but then on defense, it was offset by you gave up 12 first downs out of 18 on 3rd down. Yeah, Alabama was 12 of 18 on 3rd down.
And that's been if you can make one complaint about I mean, what did I sit here and just ask nicely to the camera this last week? Man, just please don't rush 3. Not because it's never a good idea to rush 3. I think there's sometimes y'all just really bad at it, man. I've never seen a team rush 3 and then not cover the middle of the field more than Auburn. It's amazing. It's amazing. I just, again, there's a way to do it, right, where it works, and sometimes it makes sense, but you got to know what you're bad at. It's like Auburn kept going with what they're bad at. It reminds me of the years in Auburn basketball where they were terrible, where they couldn't shoot threes, but they just kept shooting threes. They're like, hey, you know what? We're 80% of the way in the season. We know we can't shoot threes, but maybe we'll figure it out. Maybe today we'll figure it out. Maybe we'll start out an empty today against Bama, and it'll make all the sense in the world, and it'll just work. It hadn't worked, really, outside of a couple times against A&M, but I just don't know, Blaine. I feel like they kept doing stuff they're bad at. I don't get it.
Yeah, it's sooner or later you just keep doing the same thing and expecting a different result. You're just insane. But I will say, it's just I don't understand it. Like, you come in, and Vanderbilt ran some empty now against Alabama and had some success, but you come in, you throw it 43 times.
Yeah, I just don't.
You throw it 43 times and run it 22 times when Alabama has done nothing but getting gashed in the run. You come out on the 4-yard line, and throw it 3 times. Coming out, like, there's stuff of just not only the players have bad feel, but the coaches have bad feel. And that is a dangerous road to go down if you can't have good feel in a football game. Like, Steve Sarkisian has phenomenal feel, right? There's certain coordinators who know the right play at the right time. And right now, Hugh, from a play calling standpoint, has 0 feel whatsoever.
Well, I think it helps I agree with you, but, like, again, and this is on the coaching staff. You can't call plays like the quarterback. You called those plays like you had Cam Ward. Like, if Auburn had Cam Ward and you came out and threw it 43 times, you know what I'd say? Probably that's a really good decision. I think that's brilliant. And I think Hugh Freeze is a good play caller. You just can't be a good play caller when you're calling plays for a guy that can't do it in a way that makes it seem like he can. And that's your fault. So then you have to call different plays to help him out. More of what David is saying, using that diamond formation, those type of sets, triple option tendencies, things like that to help him. But you're calling it like he's going to go out there. He's Tom Brady. Like, the amount of times this man checked into the wrong play yesterday was shocking, dude. Shocking. Go watch the drive right before half. You want to talk about checking into a disaster? This man if disaster was a hotel, this man would check in every day. He'd check in every day.
It just feels like Peyton Thorne has been coddled. Like, they're almost afraid to get mad at him. Like, I've never seen Hugh get on Peyton Thorne's ass on the sideline. It's just, okay. It's okay. All right. Tap on the helmet. Do like that stuff is a sickness, an absolute poison. Our players aren't getting held to us. I saw Casanova McKenzie come out and tweet that Auburn looks soft right now from a culture standpoint. I do not disagree at all.
Well, I mean, think about this. I have never, ever, and I've been doing this, we've been doing this, guys? 4 years? Sports media, 4 years? I have never once had a player's parent message me on social media individually about the way I talk about their son. It happened one time, and it was this one. I've never seen that before, because if you're a parent of a player at this level, you understand the scrutiny that comes along with that. But if you're so thin-skinned that you can't handle that, it's not like I said Peyton Thorne was the devil or that he's an awful person. I think he looks like a great person and great teammate. He just didn't win a lot at Auburn. You could say, oh, he's 7th in passing touchdowns. Who'd you beat? Who'd you beat? It's about winning and losing. I've never had a player's parent send me a direct message while I've been in sports media. A lot as a player or as a coach. I promise you that. I got enough of that. To me, that tells me something a little bit. You need daddy to go fight your battles for you. There's something about it. I think that could be a difference. I think that could actually be a difference.
What's our thought? Kalen needed this one bad.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. So what now for Alabama? Well, I was just going to say, what now for Alabama? Like, is that enough? I mean, they were already at 13 last week, and you got to get to 11. You can't really get to 12, right? Because who knows what's going to happen with the Big 12 champ or the Group of 5 champ and how they slide it in the 12th spot. 9-3 Alabama now. How are they going to slide in this thing?
Obviously, where does Miami fall to?
Yeah, Miami's a big question, and now South Carolina. I know we're going to talk about South Carolina next, and you're 9-3 now, and you lost the head-to-head to Alabama. But how much? I mean, the committee can really do whatever they want, guys, with these at-large spots.
Would it be better for the committee right now, from a ratings and ticket standpoint, to put Alabama in or South Carolina in?
Well, it's always going to be Alabama because of how well they travel and with the brand recognition. But I think that South Carolina, man, like, they have a great case to make, especially after yesterday.
Yeah. I agree. And where does Ohio State fall? Where do you put a 10-2 Ohio State?
I think that hurt.
Their best win. Their best win is obviously what, Penn State?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Penn State on the road. I'm going to sit down and really look at it tonight. But again, it's so hard to sit here and project what's going to happen because I don't know that their theories are all contradictory. So it's guessing, which I know we have to do that, but I don't know the hard numbers to say, well, guys, this happened, so therefore this has to happen. I don't know. The
I'm glad that you said that. I'm glad you said that because this entire weekend I'm watching percentages getting put up on the screen here, and I'm thinking, where are these percentages come from? Like in the NFL or in Major League Baseball, I get it, right? Like this team has this percentage chance to lose, and if they do, this triggers the wild card for the other team. Like the committee can literally put in any team they want. How are you calculating percentages? I'll tell you what else I find fascinating is just in a 2-week span, just 2 weeks ago, we're talking about some teams maybe not wanting to go play in their conference championship games because we don't know if they pick up that extra loss, if that's going to count against them for the committee. But then I have to sit here in 8 overtimes of the Georgia Tech game, which was fantastic, by the way. That's how we should decide football games at the end if you haven't won in regulation. And I'm having to sit here and listen to, who was it, Joe Tessitore on the call there saying, well, as long as Georgia wins this one, they're a lock for the college football playoff, even if they lose the SEC championship game. Now, I think he's right. I think that's right. But how do you know that that's a lock after we were talking just 2 weeks ago about the fact that conference champions, losers, could be kept out of the playoff? Like, it's propaganda at the highest level right now.
It 100% is. You're showing me numbers. You're getting numbers and can't show me how you got them. So
Alabama, 17% chance. What are you talking about, 17% chance? You're talking about like Florida State's chances last year?
Well, if you even put like, hey, they've got a 4-1 chance to make it, I'm like, all right, I can.
The All-State playoff.
They got a 17.35% chance to make it. It's like 17.35. Dang it, like that is oddly specific. How did you get to that number? But all right, let's get to the chat and then we'll get to the rest of these SEC games.
Let's go to $5 donation from Mo Obama. It says, what's y'all's take on the unsportsmanlike conduct call in the Iron Bowl with the sideline fight RTR?
I thought it should have been offsetting. I thought it should have been offsetting. I mean, at that point, I was just trying not to fight myself for watching the play calling. I thought
Kalen DeBoer was hot on that one.
Yeah, he was.
Rightly so.
$10 donation from JD. It says Auburn inside the 29x, 0 points. Jarquez Hunter, 13 touches, 4-1 in the turnover battle. Auburn beats Bama's butt and still lost by 14. Freeze better be on the hot seat in year 3. That crap was pathetic.
Yeah, he's going to have to win, I think, at least 8, and it's probably going to have to be the right 8.
$20 donation from Ant. Appreciate it, man. It says Hugh always talks about balance on offenses. Yesterday there was 42 passes to 23 runs, 13 runs by 27. What did they see on film that told them to attack this team through the air? The game plan was awful.
I do want to say this about balance, and again, this is why you guys watch the show. We try and take you in a little bit deeper. Balance does not mean 50-50 run to pass. Like, very rarely does it work out that way. Balance is a threat. It's a threat of being able to do both. It's the ability to do both well at any time, right? It's just like a pitcher. Now, one of the most balanced pitchers are the guys that can control 3 to 4 pitches, right? Because they can throw them in any count and they can control them, whether that's the off speed or it's the fastball. It's the same thing in play calling, right? You don't have to. That doesn't mean you're going to throw your knuckle curve 70% of the time. Right? But there's some games where you may need to throw it more because it's working more. Or they're so worried about the threat of the other thing, of the slider, that they're not looking for that. It's the same way in calling plays. Just having the threat of being able to do both. But to me, if I'm going to sit here and say, you know what? We're not going to go off balance by the numbers. We're going to go off by the threat and what's working. How was the answer to be unbalanced or imbalanced toward the pass?
Mm-hmm.
Like how?
When Alabama's rush defense has been their weakest link.
Your
Best player is Jarquez Hunter.
You didn't run the ball enough, and you let Jaylen Milroe beat you on the ground. Those are the 2 things you could not do.
Why are we surprised he didn't get another quarterback? Why are we surprised about any game plan being bad?
Because you're throwing. Because at some point, if I realize that I have a car that doesn't work, I'm not going to go drive it in the Indy 500.
The bigger problem is that he still thinks Peyton Thorne's elite.
Maybe
That's the scariest thing.
I hope not. I really, really hope not. But I don't know how I can disagree with you when you throw it 43 times. David made the point. You came out in empty, dog. You came out in empty. I would rather you come out in full house, or the offset eye, or the Wildcat. It's the KD Johnson thing. Like, it just, if you're an Auburn basketball fan, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Even when you ain't making them, you're still taking them. Like, if you can't shoot the 3, don't shoot the 3s the most. I don't understand it. And there's no way on film they looked and came to the conclusion, well, Bama's really good against the run. Or you know what? If they'd have just loaded the box and played man everywhere else, if that was your answer, why did you not throw the ball deep to Cam Coleman at all until halfway through the third quarter. That man was on the back of a milk carton. You threw him a hitch in one of the first drives, and that's it. I thought the play calling, the game plan, it's either you don't know what you got, and that's horrifying, or you do know what you got, and that's even more horrifying that you did that. That's what worries me.
All right, let's go to my name is Jeff. What's up, man? So I'm not saying Bama should be in the playoffs because they lost to Vandy and Oklahoma, but if it comes down to Bama and South Carolina, I don't see a way Alabama should not get in.
I got to agree with you. Head-to-head should be when head-to-head come. I mean, David, like if you have an equal record and the strength of schedule is somewhat equal, like I'm sure it is with South Carolina and Bama, if you're lucky enough to have a head-to-head, you got to take the winner of the head-to-head, man. Yeah. Like this is easy for the committee to me.
Mm-hmm. No, you're exactly right. And we saw this last year. That's why Texas had to go, right? Texas now, if to get Alabama in last year, Texas had to go because they had the regular season head-to-head over Alabama.
Yeah.
Let's go to a $5 donation from Bama boy Ben. What's up, man? He says, guys, can you please explain to me why Jaylen Milroe can't hold on to the football? It's going to cost us against a good football team.
Mm.
You know, David, I want to ask you this because I got a ton of respect for Jaylen Milroe as a football player. You can like him, you can not like him. He's made some big plays. He's won some big games, right? That's why the comparisons last week when they were looking at the numbers, I'll take Jaylen Milroe 10 out of 10 times. When it comes to in-state quarterbacks when they're making that comparison. But one knock on him is I do think there is an arrogance, and it's here. This is where I see a little bit of that arrogance. He's continues to put the ball in. Look, it's one thing to be going back to throw when the ball gets hit when you don't see a guy. That happens. That's going to happen. It happened to Tom Brady. Happened to Peyton Manning, the best of all time. When he runs with the ball, he does not only does he not tuck the ball away, the almost looks like he's carrying it like a grenade in World War I. Like it moves, it never stops moving. It's never high and tight to the chest. The only time it's high and tight to the chest is when he's going down or he's going into the end zone. Outside of that, man, I mean, he's got the ball hanging out right here the whole time. It is not hard to go slap that thing or wrap. There's 5 different ways to knock that ball out with the way that he carries it. And that's something that I think is we know it's been a problem.
Mm-hmm.
So you're athletic enough to fix it. Why haven't you fixed it? Maybe that's an area he has to improve on.
And these defensive players these days are so great at punching the football out. You know, that used to be a tactic that was only reserved for the fourth quarter when you're down. Hey, we'll sacrifice a little bit of form on our tackling to be able to strip a ball or to be able to punch it out. These defenses are using this every single play now. And if you don't understand how to get 2 hands on the football, if your biggest strength is running the ball from the quarterback position, then this is going to continue to happen. And one of the interesting conversations we were having all weekend is for Alabama fans, like, do you want Jaylen Milroe to be the guy next season? Now, you know, there's always a grass is always greener situation, and you can find yourself worse off quickly, you know, but I think that a lot of Alabama fans are having that conversation right now.
Yeah. Speaking about conversations, you know, we've had a lot of talks about Lenoris Sellers, the South Carolina team in the back half. We just talked about the playoff, and we talk about playmakers and just guys who have that dog in them. And sometimes when you watch guys play, and we see this across all sports, some guys are just different, and you can tell it from early on. I think you could say something similar about DJ Lagway. I think you could say something a little bit similar about Nico Iamaleava as well. Not that I mean, he's taking his team to the playoff as a freshman, guys. So, like, I know the defense is elite and all that stuff, but I think we need to start talking about Nico in the light of some of these other guys that have just started to come on. When Lenoris Sellers plays football, he does things that take me aback from a physical standpoint.
Yep.
To be able to not only just run as fast as he does for as big as he is, but his change of direction and his hands are so big, he can do things. He can make moves with the ball in his hand, which is dangerous, right? But he can make moves with the ball in his hand and keep his eyes downfield. We talked about South Carolina really thrives in the havoc plays, offensively and defensively. When did South Carolina score their touchdowns in this game? Both on havoc plays. On Lenoris Sellers having to make 2 guys miss, everything breaks down. He decides to take off and run and scores. Just the physical development of this player as a freshman, watching him mixed with the mental ability he has to be able to make those big plays. Now, 2 straight weeks in a row, he's led a game-winning scoring drive to beat a ranked team. Did it against Missouri last week. Did it on the road against Clemson, a top 12 ranked team in the country, your biggest rival when you had to have it the most. Shane Beamer and South Carolina are national title contenders next year and beyond. I'm telling you right now, with this kid at quarterback, I actually agree with him. I think Lenore Sellers could be the best player in the country in next year. Overall, I think you have a chance to win the Heisman. If he continues to develop as a passer, I'm just.
You think they're national contenders this year?
If they get in, I think they got a shot. I don't think they're going to get in, though. So, like, I literally think they'll going into next year with what he'll do in the transfer portal, right? What they'll get on defense. Even defensive players want to play with great players. And when you have one at quarterback, that helps. I'm telling you guys right now that this South Carolina era that's about to happen could be the golden one. We didn't know if we'd ever see it again after what Spurrier did, winning, 33 games in 3 years? This is setting up at South Carolina to be something very, very special. And I'm just happy for Shane and for that fan base.
Man, I got to play with Denard Robinson when he was a freshman, and I got to see firsthand like a young player who's coming in and the game's still really fast for him, and they're not elite throwing the football, but they just have such a playmaking ability that it literally makes your jaw drop. And you say, man, when he really gets the tools around him, that's going to be something. That was as a freshman, and Denard wasn't even starting yesterday. Some of the things this kid did yesterday to escape the pocket and to escape pressure, and kudos to Clemson for continuing to get after him time and time again. To watch him escape like that, there were serious elements of Cam Newton. There's a lot of Josh Allen comps in there, and really has the speed, to be able to take off even after he escapes the pocket like that. The next evolution of what Lenore Sellers is going to be able to bring is to be able to escape that pressure like that, but with his eyes downfield, so he can beat you throwing the football as well and not just running. It was truly incredible, but not just his performance. This entire football game, man, that's an in-state, out-of-conference rivalry that went down to the wire. And I'll say the same thing about Cade Klubnik, man. He continued to step up time and time again despite that pressure from South Carolina, and he was giving them the business with his legs as well. But Lenore Sellers, at the end of the day, 166 on the ground, 2 touchdowns, 164 through the air. That's the way a football game should be right there.
Okay,
Blake, I was just going to say, even after that, though, there's only one team in that group of that game yesterday that controls their own destiny, making the college football playoff. That's Clemson.
I will say this: like, as good as Cade played, you can't make that mistake at the end.
True.
You cannot make that mistake. If you were a true freshman or something like that, we could have a conversation. But that's almost as worse as throwing it away on 4th and goal. It's to the point now. And look, y'all need to realize how big South Carolina is as Lenore Sellers.
They look huge.
Lenore Sellers is 6'4", 240 pounds, right? Nicholas Harbor is is a tree, right? Then you have Kennard, then you have Rocket at running back.
They're huge.
They're a huge football team, and right now, man, I think they're playing some of the best football in college football, and I think I wouldn't be surprised if they got put in the playoffs.
I wouldn't either. I just who you get.
But now the scenario is here that we talked about, right? What if Clemson goes 9-3 with 2 SEC losses out of conference that book in their schedule, and they still make the ACC Championship game, which is going to happen now after Miami lost to Syracuse, and they're going to play SMU for a chance to really, would they still get someone has to get one of the first 4 byes. It can't be the ACC and the Big 12 both playing in the first round. So this whole scenario is getting fascinating.
And if you look too at South Carolina, if that were to happen, if Clemson were to go win the ACC championship game, you now have played in 1 year LSU, Ole Miss, who's ranked, at Bama, Texas A&M, who's ranked, Missouri, who's ranked, one at Clemson, who's ranked, and if they win the ACC championship, you're looking at a chance to you've at least played, if Clemson does get in, take them out, 2 bubble teams, really 3 bubble teams as far as the college football playoff goes. So that strength of schedule is only going to increase. So it was a huge win for South Carolina. But if you're Clemson, the saddest part is if I was a coach of either team, I would rather be Clemson. I'd rather be Clemson because I do control it. I don't know what the committee's going to do, and it's a game that I think is winnable against SMU. Let's real quickly, rest of these SEC games. Obviously, Missouri beat Arkansas in a Snow Bowl, 28-21. Is Kentucky going to fire Mark Stoops, David?
I was talking with my brother-in-law Gator here, who's the golf coach at Kentucky. I don't know if they're going to fire him, but they're already, I think, looking at some other names just in case Mark Stoops is to step away from the program. And I was talking with Gator about the expectations there, and he says, look, there's so much emphasis on the basketball program that you have a lot of job security if you're the head coach at Kentucky. And Mark Stoops, we've talked about, has done some good things there, but I think it's to the point where Kentucky fans want to be great at football too. They're looking around and saying, hey, look, we're just talking about South Carolina and what they're doing in their trajectory. Why can't that be Kentucky as well? So everyone pay attention here these next few days and weeks to see what happens with Kentucky moving forward.
And I think Kentucky's also like, hey, these schools in the SEC are getting really good at basketball now. So we got to be good at football too. Like Bama and Auburn, and like these teams that you've really come up in college basketball. Florida takes care of Florida State. What a cover, Blaine, to hit that 3-leg parlay. Oh, dude, what'd you win? 2,000?
I won 3K. I won 3K. I had a 3-leg parlay, and it's like usually like
listen to this sweat.
Usually, like you only have one true sweat, right? Or one. It's usually the last leg or something like that. I had Georgia money line, which I never wish for a game to be over. Just be over at some point. Like I can't deal with it anymore. I was just losing my mind for 4 hours. Tennessee, I mean, you come out and give up 17 to Vanderbilt in the first quarter. Vandy takes a 101-yard kickoff. I'm on the way up here to Tupelo seeing that. And then I have Florida minus 13.5.
Dave.
Bought a point down. All right, they're beating Florida State up the entire game. All right, I believe it's 24-3, okay?
Yeah.
They go down. Florida State goes down and scores with like 3 minutes and 30 seconds left. All right, I bought it down just for this reason, but instead of just kicking the extra point, Mike Norvell goes for 2. And they do the throwback tight end. So now I'm only up 13. There's like 2 minutes and 55 seconds left. I'm like, I'm cooked.
Oh, God, they're going to get a first down.
Florida's first play breaks like a 70-yard run. All right. And then the next play breaks like a 20-yard run. So it gets to 1st and goal. All right. 2 minutes, 15 seconds left. So they can't get a first down. Florida ends up scoring. Then Florida State ends up fumbling. I hate betting.
Yeah.
I hate it.
No, he got it. Florida, man, what a way to end the year. 7-5, boys.
Yeah, that's what I had.
7-5.
Hey, what about the Gus bus, baby?
Yeah,
Gus bus.
Go to the OC at Florida State. They'll run it.
I mean, was this a preemptive
run
move?
it.
Was this a preemptive move from Gus to get out of UCF? Do you think he was going to get canned?
He was going to get fired. He didn't make this move, I don't think, unless he was. I just wonder if UCF's going to go get Travis Williams now from Arkansas. That's what I do. That'd be my first call. Either that or you think they'll – no, I don't think they call Dana Holgorsen. I'd go get T-Will, the DC at Arkansas, who was the DC for Malzahn there at UCF. And then LSU, hey, look, nice bounce-back win for them. Oklahoma with some momentum, coming into the game. After beating Alabama up at home, LSU was able to, shut them out in the second half. Ended up winning 37-17, even though Nussmeier did get hurt there in that game. I don't know.
Quickly, I got a donation here. Sorry, I didn't want to. $5 donation from Brian Penton. Appreciate it, Brian. What a gutsy performance by Nussmeier. I thought he broke his collarbone.
That's what I heard.
Dog.
Yeah,
I heard it was a collarbone.
Yeah, that's what it looked like to me. I do, before we get to the chat and get done with this thing, guys. Syracuse.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, boy.
Miami shouldn't be in. Like, everybody's talking about Ryan Day. Like, Mario Cristal's not going to make the playoff I don't think he's going to make the playoff with Cam Ward and this team in this ACC.
You don't think they still squeeze in there at 10-2, high-powered offense, the U kind of back? With all the chaos that's happened?
Maybe 10-2 is such a commodity that are so rare, excuse me. Now that they get in, but I'm sitting here looking at it, man, like.
So what needs to happen in the ACC Championship game? I mean, if Clemson loses, that's 4 losses you're out by. If Clemson wins and gets in at 10-3, and then that would move SMU to 11-2, your 2 losses are to BYU and to Clemson in the ACC Championship game. Obviously, they're going to make a case and say, wait. I thought conference championship losses weren't supposed to penalize us. We played an extra week. And then Miami's going to be sitting there 10-2, not playing. Number 1 offense in the country, got Cam Ward, a lot of appeal. The ACC's not getting 3 in, guys.
No.
So how's that thing going to shake out?
So let's run this crown ball out. Then I want to get to the chat. Oregon is in. right? We can agree. Make sure you just tell me if you guys agree. Oregon is in. Ohio State is in. Still. Texas is in. Penn State is in. Notre Dame is in. Georgia is in. Tennessee is in. Indiana is in. A group of 5 has to be in. So that's 9 right there. So does that mean, let's say, the Big 12's got to get one. So the Big 12's got to get one. And then the ACC's got to get one. So does that leave one at large? Is there one at large?
And that's when those 9-3 SEC teams, we got to break this thing down.
I didn't say Miami was in. So, is Miami that one at large? You see what I'm saying? They're 10-2 now. Is a 10-2 Miami going to get in over a 9-3 Bama?
That's the question. Or South Carolina, to be honest.
Or South Carolina.
Well, it's coming. We don't know because of committee and how much are they going to weigh eye tests. That's just the biggest thing to me. They kind of said, from an eye test standpoint, I don't think even with that Alabama win, they look good.
No,
I don't think they did.
I agree with that.
It's just hard for me to look at the way South Carolina's playing football right now and say that's not a playoff team. And I know records matter, and I get it to a certain extent, but how much are they going to weigh the eye test?
Well, what a performance by Syracuse, man!
Dude,
hold the home turf like that.
I thought it was going exactly like they came out. Miami came out 21, up 21.
Yeah,
and usually
I didn't think Syracuse was going to be able to catch up because
me too. With Cam Ward, what does this say about Mario Cristobal?
It's not good. It's not good, man. It's kind of like what we were talking about with Brian Kelly when he had 2 top 10 picks, and you can't be any better on defense than that. To me,
LSU in him from last year with Jaden Daniels.
Man,
100%. Guys, I'm sitting here looking at this thing still. So Arizona State's playing Iowa State, Big 12 championship.
Big Arizona State rolled Arizona.
Rolled them up and smoked them. So only one team is getting in from the Big 12.
Yes.
So the Big 12 is only going to get one. So if Clemson or SMU will be in, right?
Yeah.
And if it's SMU that beats Clemson ain't making the playoff.
No. 4 losses.
Yeah.
So if it's Clemson beating SMU, would SMU make the playoff? BYU lost yesterday, didn't
Well,
they?
it comes down to the question how much.
No, BYU won.
BYU won. How much are you going to get penalized for losing your conference? Your championship game.
Yeah,
how much
that's what I was thinking about Penn State. Is Penn State going to get penalized if they go forward and play Oregon? And now they would have lost to Oregon and to the Buckeyes. So the 2 biggest games they play. I think you're right. And now Indiana 11-1. They're going to be
a 3-loss Georgia team. Do they keep them in? It's just.
I think.
Well, according to the telecast the other day, they're locked.
It's just that makes it just still blows my mind that these guys can just close doors and just smoke cigars and laugh at the public and not tell them anything we need to know. It's just
they'll tell you next Sunday.
Away with it.
They're gonna tell you next Sunday everything you need to know, brother.
Yeah, that's exactly right. All right, let's get to the chat here as we wrap up.
All right, let's go to $10 donation from Elise. He says, "What are the odds sellers transfers?" I put it at +600.
The odd what?
Sellers transfers from South Carolina.
I don't think there's a chance in hell he goes anywhere.
Why would you?
Yeah. No. I don't think that kid's going anywhere.
$2 donation from Cuse, man. Congratulations. 0 sleep, 0 dams given. # go Cuse. # I rushed the field.
Yeah.
That was an awesome environment. I think Fran Brown's hilarious. His interview after the game was hilarious.
$2 donation from that dog. He says, "Go blue, plant the flag. Let's go 4 years in a row, baby."
This is insane.
Hey, do you guys know who got the Michigan flag? The lone Michigan guy down there.
There was a hero.
Jason Avant went and got the flag. He was doing some reporting down on the sideline. One of the greatest receivers in Michigan football history and for the Philadelphia Eagles. He's the one who got the flag and wrapped it up and took it with him.
That's awesome.
What a G.
$5 donation from TJ says, "Putting up Christmas lights while listening to CNC. What a feeling. Almost makes you forget about how awful Miami's defense is. # fire Guidry."
Yeah, it's the LSU comp is perfect. It's perfect. They just won one more game.
$50 donation from Craig. Appreciate it, Craig. Hey, boys, here's the $50 donation as promised. What an interesting slate of games for conference championship weekend. Also, it's obvious that Tim Skipper is not the guy for my Fresno State Bulldogs. What would the best fit be for head coach?
It's funny. I think if Brennan Marion was going to get a job, this could be a really good fit at Fresno State, the OC at UNLV. Now, I know Fresno State is kind of don't forget Jake Haener was just there. This place can be an offensive juggernaut. I think this would be a perfect first head job for a guy like Brennan Marion. That's who I would target.
$2 donation from Tim. Appreciate it, man. He says, I want to drink Ryan Day's tears, and also Badgers suck.
I'm just glad we get to play the Ryan Day musical at some point this week. It's got to get played. That's some of the hardest I ever – and again, I don't hate Ohio State or Ryan Day. I've got no dog in the fight.
For sure.
But that was so well done. I just hope we can find it.
He just looks like the OxyClean guy for me.
He does. He's Billy Mays. He's his son.
$5 donation from Michael. Appreciate it, Mike. I disagree about the flag. 4 straight years means you own them. I like that both teams started pushing. Coaches should have gotten them separated.
Dude, can you imagine pepper spraying those guys? It must have been scary.
I wonder if there'll be any legal representation for that.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe just take the win. Yeah, you got pepper.
I'm emotionally damaged about it. I need to call my lawyer.
Yeah, I'm emotionally damaged too. I had to watch that.
I heard David got pepper sprayed.
Yeah, through the TV.
$2
donation from Sawyer. What's up, man? Ryan Day is the Nick Saban of James Franklin's. Oh, that's good.
Oh no!
Solid
on this Sunday, I needed
that's quality, buddy.
A $5 donation from Max. He says, Dave, the regular season over, and so is our bet. I'm stoked for my autograph. Also, congrats on beating the Buckeyes.
I only heard about half that, but I heard the end. Thank you, sir. Go Blue.
All right. $5 donation from David. Mike Norvell is such a crybaby hypocrite. Had no issue with his players tearing our field up last year, but cries when our flag is planted on FSU's
Look, he's got to do something.
This is already getting too much, man.
I'd
rather you just go fight in the locker room. Like we don't have to
like the old days.
It's like Troy, the movie Troy. Get your best warrior, your biggest player. We'll get ours. We'll meet up, and whoever wins wins.
But if you're Mike Norvell, you just went 2-10. You got to show some sort of fight. You got to go take the fight. You got to Mel Gibson it.
You look up and Mike Norvell's fighting his own team.
What if after all this chaos? What if after all this chaos, right? The committee just says, you know what? After last year, Florida State, we're going to throw you a bone. You're 2-10. You're the 12th seed. Go have at it.
You know how many people would be pissed but still watch?
Yeah, I mean, if they play Boise State, it'd probably be money line. Pick them.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Don't do that.
$5 donation from Ryan. What's up, man? I used to defend him, but I can't anymore. Neil Brown needs to be fired today. Such a pathetic performance yesterday.
Kai, it felt like Neil resurrected or resurfaced the ship last year with the year they had Garrett Green coming in this year, but just starting from the jump with the Penn State game where they totally let me down. It's been a bad year. I don't know. Do they give him another year to try and turn it around again? I don't think so. I think they're probably going to make a move, and they should.
$5 donation from Brad. He says, what are y'all thoughts on the reports of Gus Malzahn getting the OC job at Florida State, baby?
Look, he got out before the house blew up. I mean, they're going to blow him up with it. What are you doing? The mafia, when they put the hit out on you,
take a ride.
You got to go, dude. You got to go in that witness protection. Now all of a sudden your name's Dylan, and you're living in Naperville, Illinois.
Yeah, and you love knitting.
Bus driver, with a lisp. Yeah. So you just had to get out and go take.
A lot of character work there.
Yeah, you practiced that.
I watched The Bronx Tale the other day. So.
Yeah, let's go to $25 donation from Sammy. Says, does Nana's Pudding Palace do takeout? Go Gators.
Oh, yeah. That's how I always get mine.
Yeah. I got a direct line to Nana's.
I don't even think they have a table in there.
I don't want to go to, Nana's
the restaurant's actually made of pudding.
Dad's Cheesesteak Heaven.
It's like a gingerbread house.
Dude, I saw a commercial from IHOP. It was like a banana sandwich. It was the worst thing. Jake, you were in there when I saw it. Do you remember watching
Bananas Foster?
He was in the commercial?
No. Well, I mean, maybe, but IHOP's just the worst. $5 donation from Zoe Anderson.
Now we're not going to get one after.
Because I was at the game yesterday. The whole stadium was booing and throwing beers at Chip's press box. Why do they keep running it? I mean, I think
they were booing
even
him,
Brady
man.
Quinn and them at halftime are like, why aren't they throwing it to Jeremiah Smith? we're looking at each other in the living room like, I don't understand. Like, is Ohio State trying to send a message?
Yeah,
Like,
I think so. I think you're right. I think there's an element to this that's like, look, it's not just good enough to beat Michigan. We have to beat them by being the tougher team. We have to show that we're as tough as them and that's our identity.
Damn.
We don't want to throw it out wide. Meanwhile, I would have been in 5 wide going up tempo. When they came out and they started going up tempo, I was having PTSD from the Texas game. And I thought, yes, this is the template, because that first line of defense, they'll get tired for Michigan. You wear them out, even if you don't score the first 3 possessions. After that, and for the next 3 quarters, you'll be good to go. They just couldn't commit to that. They couldn't stay committed.
Insecurity. I mean, throw the ball,
Jesus,
man.
Dude, we're adult. Go win the game.
How tall is Ryan Day? Is it a problem, or can he ride all the rides at Universal, or what?
I get trying to send a message. You do that by scoring points. That's what I'm saying. It's like a mental thing for Ohio State. It's like, what's that movie that Adam Sandler's in where like?
Oh, that helps.
Is it big? Where they like the girl pulls his pants down at school, and now he's afraid when anybody ever. Big Daddy, no anger management. It's anger management because the girl pulls down his pants at school and everybody sees him naked and stuff, and it's obviously not good. So now he's afraid when everybody else like is walking around. I feel like Ryan Day's just like always afraid, like somebody's gonna pull his pants down.
Well, it's like sooner or later,
he has to prove something.
Win the game. You don't have to prove anything else. Just
like,
prove that you can
go to Jeremiah Smith. There, prove it. We got him. You don't.
$5 donation from Rand Stokes. What's up, man? He says, do you think the committee will take into account that South Carolina should have 2 losses on the SEC office? Clearly sent apology for the LSU loss. Buddy, you can't do that.
No, I think they'll take into account.
I appreciate you trying to find all the avenues. I can honestly respect you for trying to think, hey, what if this happened? Going into this, you might as well watch the end of Interstellar or try and tell me anything that happened on Inception, like just because we don't know, like we don't know with the committee. The only thing we know are the guarantees. Whoever I can guarantee you this: whoever wins those conference championship games this weekend coming up, or whenever they play, are going to be in the college football playoff. Most of the teams that play in the conference championship game this weekend, and definitely in the Big Ten and the SEC, I think those are 4 teams that are going to be in regardless of what happens. The ACC. Don't know. The Big 12 probably do know. It's going to only be 110. There can only be one. So I don't think they're going to go back and say, that is like, wait a minute, guys, hold on. Before we put South Carolina out, the SEC did send a press release.
Yeah.
It said the officiating sucked. Does that move the needle? I don't think it does.
I think what's more likely is for them to sit back and say, you know what? It's our job to put the best 12 teams in. I think South Carolina is one of the best 12 now. Forget whatever the brand recognition is or who travels. We're going to put them in at 10 or 11. I think that's likely to happen, to be honest.
Go to a $5 donation from Elise. He says, time to build the Dan Jackson statue.
Look.
Targeting. Say what you want. You can say what you want.
Dan Jackson.
Targeting.
Isn't that the guy that is like in was in every one of the video games for NCAA football growing up? Like Dan Jackson the name is so like
he played a great football game, but you can't sit here and tell me that wasn't targeting.
I mean, I guess you call targeting on a lot of plays. I think you call targeting on a lot of plays.
Which play was it?
It's a play where he came down and forced the fumble on Haynes King.
Oh yeah. Yeah, but hey, you coming downhill from the safety spot.
Look, I'm all for it. I don't think targeting should be a thing. I'm just
but again, that's the thing is by the letter of the law. Yes, I just don't like the letter of the law, so I wish that it would get changed. But man, that whole game, how fantastic was that, man?
That was shocking.
What else you want to do on a Friday night during rivalry week? But watch that.
It's been a really long time when I've watched a football game and a team lost, and I felt bad for them.
Yeah.
Like I legitimately felt bad for
Haynes King, like he just got through like Battle of the Bulge.
Yeah, like it's.
But man, to watch that Georgia Tech team play with the identity of Brent Key, it's so much fun to watch, man. And I tell you, Brent Key played for Georgia Tech. Kirby Smart played for Georgia. I don't think that what we saw this weekend, I think that's going to be replicated for a couple years to come.
No, man. This rivalry is going to be. There's going to be 2 really good teams playing in this rivalry. We don't know.
Let's go to $5 donation from Devin Tiaboo. What's up, man? Headed to church, but need to say it. Cam Scattaboo. # no pity for the kitty. Playoff bound.
Look, Cam Scattaboo in the playoffs. Sign me up. I love what Matt Campbell's doing at Iowa State. Obviously, a fan should, I guess tried to find him earlier in the season this time. It was very smart because Iowa State's playing pretty well. the all-black unis go incredibly hard. But this Arizona State team, it's just impossible not to like them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I try not to, like, pick sides or, like, root for certain teams. But I look at Arizona State, and there's just something about them, man. There's something about them.
I will be putting, if they win this and make the playoff, I will be putting a little cash on Arizona State to win it all.
I love that. Why not make up for our preseason picks a little bit? I haven't heard one Arizona State fan come out and mock my preseason picks for picking them last in the conference. Because they're living in the moment. Hey, they're happy, man. They're focused.
Is this the week we go back and look at our preseason predictions?
Do we have to?
I mean, yeah.
Look, as long as we just do the ACC,
we got to plead our case this week.
As long as we don't do the Big 12.
Just do the ACC.
Can't wait. Got a $5 donation from Austin. Appreciate it, man. He says, what happens if they suspend the players that were fighting the next game, and how would that affect the playoffs?
Yeah. That's what would have worried me.
Great question.
That
would affect OSU.
Would have worried me if I'm one of the coaches. That's what would scare me to death. That they would go in and, you're hosting a first big round game. You need all your guys ready. I don't think they're going to do that. Again, if your season's over though, like whatever. But I don't think they're going to do that.
$5 donation from the Mac. Appreciate it. He says, Blaine and Jake. Jake, would you take the special teams job at Auburn? And Blaine, will you coach the receivers?
It'd have to be a lot. No, I'm gonna say no comment. No comment. Only if Cone can come and help.
Yeah, if Cone can coach quarterbacks, I'll come. That's the only way.
I can be the ball boy.
No, you got. Look, we need some help.
We just got to transfer in. It's David Cone.
Yeah, his name's David Doan.
Please, let's go to a $2 donation from Elias. What's up? Says Brendan Marion's offense seems tailor-made for Georgia.
Well, I think it can be tailor-made for anything because it works. But as far as the run game, I think that's what you're talking about out of those four. I just want to say everybody hates how Mike Bobo gets creative in the run game. Brendan Marion does a lot of the same things. They just they operate at a different pace too. So the pace adds a lot. They give you that what I call double back formation where you got the two backs on the same side in the backfield. It's kind of a different look, and they mix it up. I think he'd be good anywhere calling plays. I really believe that.
Last donation
still messaging me, dog. This is wild.
$5 donation from S. Boone. Last donation of the day. Really appreciate everybody who donated. What's the over-under on Trump attending the SEC Championship game, Army-Navy game, and the National Championship? 1.5?
I don't know, man. I'm guessing boy's just gone straight to work.
I would bet
he's already in.
Much. Now you've won. Very good. Yeah. Now I got to come in and install my playbook again.
Yeah, get to work.
Hey,
we got another donation here, a $10 donation from Mark Carruthers. What's up? He says the playoff bracket was designed to get Ohio State in no matter what going forward.
Well, I mean, I think they partly earned it too. Like, we have to understand there's been so much chaos around that it's not like we're arguing over 7, 10, and 2 teams. Like, that's what we thought we were going to have.
Yeah.
We thought we were going to have the argument of, well, this 10-2 team compared to this 10-2 team. Well, they lost in the conference championship. They're 10-3. What's that going to count for everybody else? That's not what we're really getting. It's kind of working itself out if you're watching. The problem now is, there's not everybody's going to play next weekend. So the odds of it getting worked out perfectly decreased by a ton. So I don't, at this point, I want to see who gets the automatic bids. There's no precedent for this really. So I'm almost learning year one, like how they go about it so that the years coming forward, I can predict it better.
Well, and for all the critics out there saying, well, see, this is why we didn't want conference expansion. There aren't 12 teams that can win the national championship. Has this not been the most incredible last 6 weeks of a season that you have ever seen? I mean, we do this professionally, so naturally it's been good for us. But even if you're a fan of a team that may be already out of the conference playoffs, like or the conference championship and the college football playoffs, has this not been incredible to keep up with?
Oh no, it's made it elite. This has been the most fun I've had watching a regular season since I can remember.
But yeah, maybe there aren't 12 teams that can win the national championship. But Jake, to your point from when I first met you and we were talking about conference expansion, you said, hey, what if this experiment for a few years could lead to the type of parity that would result in 12 teams being able to win the national championship? Maybe not in the first, second, or third year of the playoff. And who knows, they may expand it again before we ever get to the point where 12 teams could win it. But to your point was, hey, if this bolsters recruiting enough for those 10, 11, and 12 seeds, or a program like South Carolina to be able to say, see what happens if you come here, you can get recruiting in the transfer portal. Maybe we will see an era where the 12th team can win the national championship.
And I'm just wondering, is this an anomaly or is this the new norm or somewhat close to the new norm? There's no way I can know that until we have a couple years of this. I hope this is the new norm. I hope we don't go back to there's this one dominant team, and everybody else is chasing them. There's these two elite teams and nobody else is really close to them. You got to get lucky to kind of find a way to win. I hope this is the new norm, man. I really do.
All right, one more donation. Last donation, $2 donation from Joshua Hawley. Appreciate it, Josh. Tennessee was the biggest winner again, fellas, hosting a playoff.
Yeah, look. Tennessee's in a great spot. Tennessee's what I'm so interested in seeing the hosts as well. That's what and seeing these matchups. It's where does Indiana fall in all this at 11-1, right? Are they going to host one? You're going to see these micro arguments within teams that aren't in the top 4. And then you're going to have obviously the macro argument of who is getting in. Both are going to be fascinating, but how do they position themselves? Because everybody can't host a game, obviously. And when you have 4 teams out of the 12 not playing that first week, that's 8 teams, that's 4 games, right? So, that's what I'm going to find fascinating. It's going to keep me in a great conversation. But speaking of great conversation, we appreciate you guys joining us this morning. Great show. Go ahead.
Quickly, $50 donation from Dean. Appreciate it, Dean. You got to love it when the minus 59.5 hits against your rival. 11-1 Indiana feels like a dream, and I don't want to wake up. P.S. Cone, congrats on the win, brother. My only ask that you wear a little Indiana gear. I sent you loud and proud during the college football playoff pregame.
Indiana's going to be in the college football playoff.
How wild is that? I love it.
It's absolutely nuts. All right, got shows lined up for you this week. Look, it's championship. We got championships on deck. So it's not ending. It's really just beginning the expanded playoff. We're going to be following everything. Make sure you're locked into Crane & Company. Appreciate you guys joining us today. Hit that subscribe button, and we will see you tomorrow, 2 p.m. Central. You guys are the best, and we'll catch you then.